Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, but not the long-winded lore dump. No, we are going for a fast, streamlined summary of each chapter, so you don't have to skip through hours of dialogue to understand what's going on. So, sit tight, because I'm about to explain everything you need to know in the simplest way possible. Here is a summary of the new banner for Diane, Amidst Wings of Gray. The story opens up as the clouds gradually scatter and the moonlight shines on Diane. While she is the only one in the garden, a pair of images suddenly appear. She seems to realize something and closes her eyes. Her mouth curves up in a faint smile and she bows, as though welcoming someone. She's welcoming Dandelion, who she hasn't seen in 10 years. She teases Diane for not trying to catch up with her after all these years. Dandelion is being passive-aggressive at Diane for wanting to come back when she used to wait on the sidelines as her comrades went into battle. Dandelion leisurely walks in front of her, and Diane understands that the two of them used to be a part of the same squad 10 years ago. In their conversation, Dandelion refers to a person that lost everything. Fame, comrades, their future, and all of the T-dolls that used to be their former friends. Dandelion understands that it takes a lot of courage to come back into the fight, but what she doesn't understand is where that courage to want to come back after all the suffering they went through came from. Diane and Dandelion make a deal with each other. Dandelion will reunite Diane with that person, and in return, Dandelion will perhaps fulfill her promise of watching that person's life end. At the clap of Dandelion's hands, a person named Helena comes to Dandelion's assistance. Dandelion asks her to grant Dandelion network access to the beacon network in the central region and to send a message to their old comrades to get them to meet up. Some time passes and the team Dandelion called are in a supply station that serves as a repository for supplies from outside the contamination zone, and it is also the last and only hope for anyone seeking to leave the yellow zone. As the quarantine walls gate opens, a rust-speckled intercontinental railway train slowly pulls into the supply station amidst the alarms. Radiation cleansing wash is sprayed onto the train cars and pours off the side. As the train slows down, a deafening metallic shriek echoes within the building, causing the surrounding travelers to reflexively cover their ears. The passengers all look tired as they drag their luggage off the trains. However, one of them is not like the others as she hops, skips, and jumps down the ramp. This is Yu, the sister of Diane. She complains with Hui about how long the 20-hour train ride was. Diane comforts her little sister through a compliment, and the three continue on their way to their destination. Upon hearing her big sister's reassurance, Yu goes from pouting in annoyance to smiling broadly as she smugly plants her hands on her waist. Hui is surprised that, as T-dolls, the fact that they were able to get a seat at all was a surprise. With a few more hours until the transfer train arrives, the team decides to rest. Yu asks why they arrived to a place where they spent half of a year's worth of income on the train ride alone. Diane says it's a secret, but that she is sure that the team will love it. As Yu leaves to get their luggage, she returns back with several men in security guard uniforms chasing after her. The guards are trying to handcuff Yu, but her strength and agility are far beyond theirs. Yu calls out loudly to Diane as she runs, and as Yu makes a bigger and bigger commotion, the surrounding travelers gather around to gawk and more security guards swarm over. Diane and Hui immediately run over to Yu, blocking her behind them. Diane whispers to Hui not to hurt the humans, and she replies with a knowing nod, attempting to take down the oncoming security guards aside with minimum force. After seeing the doll's prowess, the guards freeze up, unwilling to recklessly approach them. However, there is a sound of a handgun chambering around in the distance, and a middle-aged man who looks like a police officer stalks over to Diane and the others. The man demands to speak to the owner of the T-dolls, but Diane tells him that they are self-owned dolls with clearance to carry firearms. The ID checked out correctly, and the man yelled at the railway security for trying to detain innocent dolls that were obeying the law. The man then says, "Dolls who have these kinds of electronic IDs have a complicated past. You shouldn't mess with them." Suddenly, a massive explosion from outside happens. A huge plume of black smoke rises from the quarantine wall in the distance. As the shockwave from the explosion washes over them, many people lose their balance and fall to the ground. A boojum apparently was spotted and is hitting the quarantine wall. As the police race over to handle the problem, the man asks Diane's team to help. Hui says that if it's a boojum, that they won't be able to help. However, Diane tells him that if the boojum were to enter the zone, it would be catastrophic. As the two of them discuss, the officer tells them that if they help get rid of the boojum, that he would help them apply for a security certificate within the railway network so they'll never be stopped or questioned no matter which station they go to. The team agrees and the fight commences. After eliminating the elids within the area, Diane contacts a railway police officer over the radio. The officer thanks them and warns them not to go outside the quarantine wall, as there have been lots of sightings of boojums, cult activity, and missing people in that area. As they are about to leave, another explosion suddenly happens, and the team spot a young lady with blue hair on the ground clutching her weapon. The spheres on her hair glow with blue light, and the heat boiling off of them makes the surrounding air ripple. It's plain to see that the previous destruction was their work. This kind of autonomous defense system from an unconscious doll was something they've only seen from 10 years ago. As the dolls come to a halt, the spheres suddenly flash with light before flying rapidly in the opposite direction from Diane's team. After scanning the area, Diane tries to reboot the doll now that the spheres are away. She attempts to connect to the other doll's neural cloud, and its firewall structure seems strangely familiar to hers. Turns out this doll also worked at Griffin alongside them, but they don't remember her at all. While this happens, you are in the Elmo trying to think of a game plan with Darcher and Sextons encountering your team. After fighting off Sextons, you took her back to the Elmo to undergo repairs to detain her. In the meantime, you're trying to locate and destroy the people after Helena. You think about the events from yesterday. You found Sextons far from battle, as if she had retreated. When Groza approached her to eliminate her, Sextons had suffered severe damage to her body with no idea who she was. Just as this all unfolded, Lena called on the comms to ask if you would speak with Dandelion. As the call goes through, Dandelion tells you that Sextons is a 3rd-gen doll and the Gerard Group's newest product and their pride and joy. Dandelion offers to help the team boost the maximum output of their remolding pattern, which will make them stronger than before. You agree as Groza's team begins falling back. Apparently, Dandelion used to be the Elmo's transportation AI when she worked in Griffin. As Maylin gives Dandelion the access codes to help the team, you ask Lena about Miss Colleen. Right now, they have Helena in a safe location, and her remaining on the Elmo isn't a good idea when the Gerard Group is after them. Dandelion tells you that she was able to upgrade Groza's remolding pattern from 65% to 85%, which to no avail one-shotted Sextons easily. Leva tells you the real reason why she called. Klukai, who used to be known as 416, is now the leader of Squad 404. They're on a mission, and Colleen was hoping that you could send over a squad to back them up in case something dangerous happened. You agree to help them out, and also agree to help Helena by traveling through the Intercontinental Railway instead of through the Elmo. The flashback ends, and Kolfine is with the very sick Helena. You tell them both the plans to take them to the hospital in another city with the help of Miss Colleen. Helena is skeptical because the last time she left the Elmo, so many terrible things happened, and she starts to cry. You reassure her that this time will be different and she will be safe. When Kolfine says that she'll be coming along too, Helena feels a lot better. You report to Groza and tell her to stay on the Elmo to help with Sextons and Team 404, while you, Helena, and Kolfine leave the city to get Helena to a hospital. Groza says it's a bad idea to take on those 2 missions at once because she won't be able to help escort you. You tell Groza that it's fine and that you would much rather her stay on the Elmo while Sextons is there. You feel as though Groza is upset with you for your command, but she agrees and does as you ask. Back to the present, the blue-haired girl that Diane found ended up being Kolfine, and the spheres protecting her had belonged to Helena. As Kolfine gathers her thoughts, she speaks to Diane and her team and realizes that they, except for Zhao Hui, all know you as their old commander. They introduce one another, and Kolfine explains that they were attacked by an unknown force on their way to the train station, and as you were exchanging fire with the forces, a boojum suddenly appeared. Kolfine, although not fully trusting a Diane's team yet, does tell them the location of you and Helena via the tracker that she placed on Helena. The group goes with Kolfine, and after passing through the broken quarantine wall, Kolfine goes a long, good way before she finally comes to a halt. They end up trailing the boojum at an old underground facility. Kolfine asks the team if they could help find you and Helena, and they all agree to do so in hopes of seeing you again. Going back in time some more, Dandelion takes on the body of a diner gate and asks you some questions about the past. You've been on edge a lot since Dandelion has been remotely accessing the Elmo, as she reminds you a lot of things that you aren't proud of from your time in the war. She asks why you abandoned everyone 10 years ago, but she already knows the answer to that. She responds, just because you don't want to get your hands dirty, you do know that by leaving, you lost the ability to change things, right? A lot of people think that you leaving Griffin and Kruger was incredibly stupid. They believe that if you had just continued on your previous path, you'd be in a position of power now, instead of being bullied by Varjaggers in the Yellow Zone. Dandelion tells you that she took you as someone who wouldn't stand for injustice, but instead you ran away with so much shame and have done nothing about it. But she admits, because of that all the people under you, humans and dolls, ended up living pretty good lives. A drone takes off from the Elmo's landing pad, and soon the massive Elmo is nothing more than a tiny speck on the ground. Helena and Confronting are on one side of the drone, while the box form of Helena's transformed defense systems and you are on the other side. Inside the diner gate's body, Dandelion sprawls over a nearby crate. She taps the surface curiously, as though she's looking for a way to open it. You and Dandelion talk some more about Helena. Dandelion knows that she's related to Paradis, the evil organization that you had fought almost 10 years ago. Dandelion says that she's interested in Helena's defensive box, and that if she knew how to open it, that she would be able to control it. Suddenly, Helena's box begins to change form as a voice rings inside Helena's mind. Helena says that there's a voice calling to her from beyond the clouds. The box transforms into 3 spheres, and you hurry to grab Dandelion to avoid the shockwave. The spheres fly over to Helena, slice her free of her safety belts, and carry her into the air. Confronting tries to grab her, but Helena nimbly avoids her. After glancing coldly at Confronting, Helena flies free of the drone and swiftly disappears into the clouds. The disruption from the spheres make the drone that you guys are on shake violently, and you hold on tight to the handrails to keep balance. The unbalanced drone goes into a flat spin and starts to crash towards the ground. Mei Ling is doing her best to try and keep the drone aloft as you hold on to dear life. Mei Ling is able to stabilize the drone, and you all regain lift, taking a sigh of relief. You status with Confronting and note that now the mission is to find Helena using the tracker that was placed on her. When you reach her location, you see that Helena is fighting a boojum with the other armed people in what looks like an abandoned city. As you try to land to help out, the armed troops end up shooting you instead. As you circle away, you make the play to go and assist on foot with Confronting. The troopers who saw the drone land behind begin to encircle you, and you are forced to draw your sidearm to engage with them. After you fend them off, it looks like Helena is fighting the armed troops alongside the boojum. You ask if your team can try and hack into the weapons to try and cease their fire so you can get close. Meanwhile, the boojum is right beside Helena. Perhaps it's afraid of her defense systems, but it's been kept outside of her firing range. Helena remains motionless in midair, as though she's lost consciousness. Diner Gate Dandelion rapidly approaches Helena, and as they sense the approach of the interloper, the autonomous defenses flare up and begin firing deadly beams at her. However, Dandelion's hacking is severely disrupting the enemy systems as she approaches the diner gate easily and avoids the beams. The spheres begin to stop shooting altogether, and she takes this time to fly up to Helena and examine her. As Helena is guided back down, she begins to scream and cry out about not wanting to leave those kids behind. This confuses everyone as her speech sounds more cohesive than usual. However, this triggers a boojum, and it begins moving its attention from the troops to your team. As the boojum is about to crash into the building you're in, Confronting throws you out of the building with all of her might, and in that moment, you see the boojum's massive body swallowing up Confronting and Helena's forms. Heading into more recent times, Jungyu, Diane, and Zhaokui are alongside Confronting and have finished fighting the armed troops. As Confronting explains more of what has happened and why the commander is here, they descend deeper into the warehouse to where Helena's signal is. Countless square glass tanks that are half the height of a person are piled up messily against the walls of the room. The ones on the left contain some unidentified plants, and the ones on the right hold various twisted bodies. The tanks are engraved with what appear to be some kind of spell incantation on them, and the walls are covered in indescribable designs, but the dolls immediately recognize one of them. It's a symbol for Paradis, the evil organization from 10 years ago. The missing people and the cold activities the officer had spoken of before seem very likely to be related to the room the team was in. It takes a long time before they manage to stride to the end of the room. They begin to hear the chanting of voices when they find a group of followers doing a ceremony. As a girl in the center chants, the cult known as the Unitates pull out daggers in trembling hands and point them to their own throats. Some people try to struggle against this, but their bodies do not heed their commands, as though they're not in control of their own actions. The dull thud of their bodies hitting the ground rouses the monster at the base of the pit they're encircling. The monster is the boojum that attacked you in Confronting, and as the bodies of the Unitites touch the boojum, the corpses meld into its body. The team spots 3 orbs circling around the monster, as though they're protecting something. It looks like this boojum wasn't formed naturally. A massive plant coils around the boojum's tail, binding it to the base of the pit. The boojum emits a cry from time to time like a howl of anger and pain. The team looks at the girl who is smiling cheerfully with all of this happening. The team believes her to belong to a subgroup of Nitos.
Naitos, sometimes called the baptized, are girls or women, since there are no known male Naitoses, whose consciousness have been physically embodied with functions like a neural cloud. This enables them to interface with digital networks like tactical dolls or establish a direct connection with other Naitos, but also exposes them to hacking. The people turned into Naitos are mostly mass-produced clones, but also acquired through human trafficking and kidnapping of survivors, and they are also known to be created from corpses. So that's kind of fun. Unlike the Naitos from 2060s, the new Niters are encountered in the Elmo in this one. In Eastern Europe of 2074, they are weaker, they show signs of ELID, and they rely on nanomachines for brainwashing. Well, anyways, Colfine fires at Niter before anyone can stop her, but the bullet does not harm her. It's as though it had vanished into thin air. Niter becomes aggressive and begins to attack them. Meanwhile, you have been saved by Helena and Dandelion, who have helped you regain consciousness from the earlier boojum attack. You have a dislocated left arm, but besides that, you're okay. Helena urges you to follow her, so you do, as the collapse storm is heading for you guys quickly. You get a hint at Colfine's signal, and the three of you make your way to the abandoned broker warehouse. Helena begins to speak differently than before. She tells you that down here is where people were sacrificed, and that her loved ones from a distant past all died because of her here. You spot some Utanites and decide to engage in combat with them as Helena goes to hide. Afterwards, the three of you check the hideout and find no hints or clues on the first 3 floors. You end up seeing the experiments being done on human beings, many of them being from the people who used to live in the abandoned village. Helena asks if you can save the people who have been experimented on, but Dandelion says the best they can do is turn off the power so that they can die peacefully. Suddenly, the boojum screeches and Helena runs into the direction of the noise, leaving Dandelion to collect the data on the experimented people and you to chase after her. Meanwhile, Diane and company are still attacking Niter and the boojum. The boojum feeds on the sacrifices, regaining its strength. Within the lifted skin of the boojum, Helena's figure can be seen. Colfine races to try and save her, and Diane's team goes after her to help. As the team weakens Niter and the boojum, another Helena, who wasn't attached to the boojum, makes herself known. Niter calls her "my lord" and praises her before Helena shoots her in the head over and over again. Not long after, the Helena that was attached to the now dead boojum confronts the other Helena. It becomes clear who the real Helena is when one of them begins justifying the sacrifices. The good Helena shoots the fake one repeatedly in the head, but that doesn't stop her from telling the good Helena that she betrayed them as she calls for reinforcements. Just as things are going to look scary, Dandelion had already called a distress signal to the Zachero Cafe, where Macchiato and Centrarsi have arrived to help. So, there you have it, a quick and simple summary of the limited time campaign Amidst Wings of Gray. This is such an interesting but slightly confusing side story that makes me so interested in who or what Helena is. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more streamlined summaries and updates on Girls Frontline 2 Exilium. And hey, if you want me to dive deeper into any specific chapter or part of the story, just let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching.